And so we'll report more on that tomorrow. And next, a story from Washington, which may become a piece of history. Today, top officials of the United Steelworkers and managements of steel companies met to mutually increase productivity in the steel industry. It was the first joint productivity conference, resulting from the pioneering act last year when labor and management representatives wrote into the steel labor contract provision for a joint effort to improve industry productivity. Today's meeting was to evaluate the first year's results. I.W. Abel of the United Steelworkers and E.H. Gott of the steel industry, among others, pointed out to the 750 representatives present the absolute necessity of the effort if this country is to halt the serious inroads by foreign steel and halt the critical American job loss. Father William Hogan of Fordham University, a universally acknowledged expert on the world steel industry, documented with figures the acuteness of the threat to America's steel industry. And he underscored the necessity that the attack on the problem be a combined effort. Steel customers have gone in for large hedge buying, which works against domestic industry. It has been estimated that more than 130,000 American job opportunities in the steel industry have been lost. One of the highlights of the conference was a filmed report. Several of the speakers said the film should be seen by everyone who depends upon the American steel industry for a living, as well as all Americans concerned about the economic health of the United States.
Where's Joe? Where's Sam? Dan? John? Al? Where are 130,000 men we used to work with? Is the world using less steel now? No. More steel and more men. Here are the new steel men. Hans, Adolf, Wilhelm, Werner, Jose, Pedro, Victor, Yoshio, Kobo, Yukio. Same tonnage, different names. Why? Start with this fact. The average American couldn't care less where his steel comes from and the products he buys. We must be realistic about that. So there's a ton of steel on wheels we didn't make. There's a ton we didn't make. There's a ton. Another. 100 tons. 1,000 tons. 21,000 from 10,000 miles away. 85,000. 500,000. 18.3 million tons of steel imported in 1971. 1 out of every 6 sold in the U.S. 130,000 job opportunities. Not including steel that came in as cars, cycles, vessels, and the like. 1 3/4 million tons in cars alone. That's fact number 1. Next, go to fact number 2. That all eyes were on us. We are winners. We have made industrial history. Now the champions quickly become the team to beat. So foreign steel scouted us closely, observed our success habit, our winning systems, looking for the openings. And what did they find? Several things. Some processes. Our product emphasis, which reveals the best U.S. markets. Our productivity rate, and some ways to beat it. Their ambitions were bigger than we once knew. Today, there is no mistake whatsoever. They are after the lion's share. And they're going to use our historic national technique, rising productivity, to put us right out of the big leagues. And this sounds like something that simply could not happen to a major American industry. However, take radio.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, we didn't see it happening. It started so slow, see? Then faster. Then all of a sudden, and you wouldn't believe this, but 9 out of 10 radios sold in the U.S. were foreign-made. Well, fortunately, I was able to, get out early enough so that I could get a new start. I want to tell you, I've got a great thing going here, refinishing antiques. But it was really something else, how fast that thing hit us. They took over.
Take TV. Repeat half of the U.S. black and white TV production they've already taken. Take electronics in general. We developed that industry, but they took nearly all the consumer electronics manufacture, 47,000 jobs. Take shoes. Foreign plants took 40% of the manufacturing and over 100,000 U.S. jobs. Take sporting goods. 9 out of 10 baseball gloves, foreign made. That was rough, but that's all fussy handwork. It'll probably stop there. Then, as suppliers to American brand names, they took nearly all the sewing machine business. Okay, but the consumer units are still small component assembly work. Probably stop there. Then they moved in on textiles, and 250,000 jobs in 1 year alone, 1969. Then they took a third of the bicycle industry and 96% of the motorcycle business. Repeat, 96%. Still, the public doesn't hear alarm bells ringing. In 1950, the United States was practically the world's only builder of merchant ships. Today, the U.S. builds 2% of the world's merchant ships. Foreign workmen with a large cost advantage produce the rest, including the steel. AFL-CIO estimates that just between 1966 and 69, they took 700,000 U.S. jobs. But surely it'll stop there. Then we woke up to find that they took 18% of our auto business, 40% in California. And an automotive leader predicts they'll move that percentage right across the nation to the Midwest. And now, they're after ours, steel. And they know what they're doing. They were smart enough to scout us thoroughly. Now we had better be realistic enough to scout them. Here are some of the things we find. That many of us carry in our minds an outdated picture of our foreign competitors' mills. Men. Homes. Cities. But that isn't how it is today. This is. Modern, smart, tough, ambitious, capable. They're realists. They want what we've got, and they know how to get it. By increasing productivity, increasing their cost advantage over us. They know the open success secret that lies in rising productivity. They know it right down in their bones. And they know it's an individual face-off. They know the rewards are up for grabs, and they're out to win with knowledge, teamwork, muscle, high skill, precision, elimination of waste, care of equipment, avoidance of breakdowns, quality, on-the-job attendance records, strategy. The same plays our own productivity committees are working on. They're in a hurry to get that lion's share. They feel sure they can beat us out for it, as they have in electronics, shipbuilding, motorcycles, sporting goods, and so forth. How do we feel?
Speaking on behalf of the industry, I can tell you exactly how we feel. And that is that we have no intention of permitting foreign competition to take away our market. We have invested more than $10 billion in the last 5 years in more productive equipment. And now we are engaged with the United Steelworkers of America in a joint effort to increase the productivity on the human side. There is just no question about it. We must use all of our intelligence and energies to find some way to meet this challenge. It's not only important that we increase our productivity, but it is also important that we stop the artificial inventory buildup and subsequent letdown. Otherwise, we're going to continue exporting jobs abroad.
Well, I know how I feel. During our 1971 negotiations, the importation of steel was accelerated. We saw pictures from the Buffalo papers and a story depicting members of our union laid off. And as they took their clothes under their arms or in shopping bags and left the mill to begin their unemployment, across the way there were docked 2 Swedish ships loaded with steel from France, consigned to the automotive company right next by. We knew of many other places where similar action was taking place. Now you hear much about the productivity improvement. And I remind you that over the past 10 years, the basic steel industry has enjoyed only a 2% productivity factor. 2%. Now realistically speaking, since our standard of life is geared to that, I know that you don't want to settle, and I don't want to settle for that kind of improvement in our standard of life as we go down the road.
But haven't we a transportation advantage to offset foreign high productivity, being closer to our customers and our raw materials? Certainly. However, foreign competitors are building their plants right on deep water to utilize cheap water transport. And with our vast waterway systems, they can float their steel at very low cost right into the heart of our markets. Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Buffalo, even as deep inland as Tulsa, in addition to our coastal ports. But isn't there a voluntary quota in which foreign nations agreed to limit shipments to the U.S.? Absolutely. But voluntary is voluntary. And in a bargaining year when customers are hedge buying, forget it. The record, 18.3 million tons, came in 71, a contract bargaining year. Voluntary quotas are unenforceable. Besides, many countries not part of the voluntary quotas keep shipping in steel. Mexico, South Africa, Sweden, Korea, Chile, Brazil.
Quotas, voluntary or otherwise, are basically interim measures. They're crutches. They provide time. Time for government to get rid of the inequities and unfairness in the conditions affecting steel trade. But essentially, time for all of us to help our industry to become more thoroughly cost competitive. To do that, we've got to improve our productivity. The question comes right down to whether we want to be on a losing team in the World Steel Olympics or not. I don't think we do, because that is not the path to more jobs. It's not the American tradition.
What about the predicted increased market for steel? Shouldn't that eliminate downtime and reduction of turns? Yes, it should. But in 1971, when U.S. consumption was up 3 million tons, U.S. shipments down 4 million. In a market that promised increased jobs, we even failed to hold what we had. In 1971, we saw our worst year job-wise since Depression days. That October, fewer men on the job than in any non-strike month since 1939. But don't we Americans lead in technological advances for increased productivity? Probably yes. But in the world ball game today, there are no secrets. A technical advance idea is secret for only a few months at most. Our own American steel engineering supplier companies sell their new technical developments as eagerly abroad as at home. So technical advantage and most others cancel each other out fast. That brings us down to squaring off in a man-to-man showdown. Manager versus manager. Skill versus skill. Head to head. It's a one-on-one defense. It's a personal matter. Present benefits are secured by our 1971 labor contract. There's no backing off from these on the basis of productivity, but we must look to the future. Linked to that productivity challenge is another which must be met and won. Foreign steel men learned something else about our successes. They researched accurately our best growth customers, especially their buying cycles. One of these cycles was spotlighted for them in 1959, when it was barely visible. But foreign steel men saw how to use it against us. How? Watch. Step 1. Many months prior to our known labor contract termination date, steel customers begin ordering against a possible strike, often establishing their ordering patterns as much as 2 years before our contract date, with actual stockpiling beginning as much as 8 months ahead. Step 2. Foreign mills plan on this buildup. They are ready, and they move in on our hedge-buying customers and find they are very welcome. They choose our big customers, not small ones. Step 3. Steel substitutes, which have been persistently trying to take away steel's customers. Now they find they are more welcome. They push in, knowing the time is right, and they hit hard. All right, back to the hedge buying steps in this 3-year buying cycle, geared to our 3-year bargaining schedule. Step 4. So that these substitute materials and foreign competitors don't take over all our customers, we too must rush into this race with expensive overtime crash production in order to hang in there. Step 5. Side effect. Outsiders who don't realize the artificial nature of this upsurge think the steel business is booming and that steelworkers must all be knee-deep in money. Step 6. With our customer warehouses now rapidly filling up, we go into final negotiations. We arrive at an agreement without a strike, so the big stockpile buildup was for nothing. But nobody can hear that in the din of the big announcement. Everything should be great now. Instant prosperity, back to normal Monday morning. But step 7, normal, doesn't happen Monday morning, nor next week, nor next month. Skeleton operations. We already made and shipped next April steel. Hurry up and wait. We get layoffs. Temporary? Well, how temporary is temporary? Step 8. Our customers work off their stockpiles slowly, 7, 8 months, while we inch back toward full operations. But step 9, full operations, are not so full this time. Fewer men recalled. And note the downtime, fewer turns, shorter work weeks. The customer does not return to using as much American steel as before. Why? His foreign steel is still flowing in because to get his foreign stockpile, he was urged to sign a long-term commitment. The sales story being a reminder of the 116-day strike in 1959, when foreign steel men were thrilled to get a foot in the door. But today, foreign steel men aren't about to be merely relief suppliers to be dropped when our contract is signed.
But my company doesn't want to commit to a contract for a full year's supply of imported steel. It's against our policy.
I suppose. But it's against ours to sell you on less than an 18-month contract. I offered you 1 year only because of your high tonnage requirements.
Japan's capacity is up to 100 million net tons, and they intend to sell it all. So steel keeps floating in. Adolf, Jose, Yoshio still working. John, Dan, Al still out. So it's hurry up and wait in 9 steps. Clobbered by an open secret, the 3-year cycle. Here's that cycle in instant playback. A couple of years before contract date, customers start ordering against a possible strike. About 8 months before contract date, customer stockpiling starts. American tonnage up. Employment up. Bargaining agreement reached. No strike. Steel production plunges right now. Employment down right now. Next, a fairly level stretch, gently rising. Customer stockpiles dwindling. Steel buying and steel production inches up toward normal, but not as normal as before. Men being recalled, but fewer. When the cycle stops, it's been musical chairs with jobs. And before we've enjoyed much of this near-normal life, time already for the big hedge-buying tune to begin again prior to the new contract negotiations. Hurry up, then wait. Foreign steel people turned our bargaining cycle into a 3-year roller coaster, but it's no amusement park.
This frantic race of steel consumers to stockpile metal in anticipation of a strike poses a serious problem to all concerned. Foreign producers of steel have discovered that this is an opportune time to sell extra millions of tons to consumers eager to build a large supply. The hedge buying that always takes place during our negotiations creates an artificial demand for steel. And as a result, the companies here accelerate production, and foreign steelmakers find new markets for great amounts of metal that ordinarily would be made by our own members. The results of this are tragic. This problem is becoming more and more acute. The periods of layoff due to stockpiling are becoming longer and longer and more widespread. In my judgment, we must find a way to bargain out our contractual differences peacefully and satisfactorily.
So we all need to plan 2 new forward moves. 1, take away from foreign steel men our present crisis bargaining cycle that boomerangs against us to make us play musical jobs. 2nd, head realistically right into the challenge zone where the game will be won or lost, productivity. Our productivity committees will move to a new level of effectiveness, yes, but even before that, we have each got to excel over our individual foreign competition on an individual basis. Personal excellence. And that part of the counterattack we can each start now. One-on-one defense. This is a showdown. The timing is important because our future increased U.S. market is already on the drawing boards, and it ought to save our jobs instead of making more jobs for our competitors. They want that market. They're planning on it. The market rate is on. This is no drill. But there's time. If everyone in the American steel industry, management and labor, decides that it's important to win this one, each of us will answer, one way or another.